symptoms of advanced alcoholism by the time I was a junior here at high school. They didn't want to hear that, you know. Oh well. One more place I haven't been asked back to share at. Oh my. So, blackouts and personality changes. I love the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde analogy. I get Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I was frequently very, very friendly, and frequently I was cooperative. But give me a couple of social drinks and who knows what's going to happen. And I have been known to get involved in impossible arguments and fights over politics and religion. And be dragged off and never be asked back. And I have a big mouth. So, I'm not someone who asks for help. Doesn't occur to me. I think if I'm in trouble, I should try harder. And if I'm in trouble, I want to keep it secret. And if I'm in trouble, I don't want to be noticed. The reason I'm still alive today is in my religious community. These are bright people. And in the early 70s, maybe late 60s, they got an education on alcoholism. People who knew about the disease talked to in the Catholic Church, the bishops and provincials and superiors of orders, and they said, listen, this is a treatable disease. It's big in the Irish, it's big in the Slavic. All your people have a lot of this tendency. And if one of your folks is showing symptoms of alcoholism, get them some help, because you'll save a life. So intervention was the policy, and I surfaced as I'm a loud, very enthusiastic alcoholic who's looking for the car keys. And people had noticed this before, and they were waiting, and one of my classmates, his father was a Teamster, and one of his father's best friend was in charge of all the alcoholic Teamsters. Can you imagine that as a job? And they got some information, and when it was time, I was intervened on and put into treatment. We had a new boss. I was his first alcoholic. And the timing was right. I was exhausted and burned out and frantic and, like I say, 29. And I was pretty sure my life was over. And I went through a 21-day program in Berkeley. I was going to school in Berkeley at the Graduate Theological Union, which is a great place to learn stuff. 12 different schools, 9 different denominations. Let's do this together. And I got sober there. And when I got sober in 1976, in Berkeley, we didn't quite have one meeting a night yet. And so we had to go next door into deepest Oakland to get to some meetings, which is like 4 miles away. And maybe a few other towns. And then every so often they would say, let's go to a meeting in San Francisco. And I would explain to them about the bridge. But they didn't care. They said, don't drive, sit in the back, close your eyes, we're going. I called AA. And I asked if there were meetings anywhere, because I didn't know. And they said, there's a Friday night meeting in Oakland on Telegraph Avenue. And I went. They did not tell me that it was an old-timers meeting. And everyone was 107 years old. And happy. Friendly. And I've been a little isolated for a while. And I would serve. In graduate school, you go to class, surface, and then you submerge. And that's what I did. So suddenly I'm in a room with people, well-lit room, happy people. Where I got sober, we didn't clap. I got sober in non-clapping AA. And if you were really extraordinary, people kind of nodded their heads and said far out, but they didn't clap. So that made the room a little quieter, but there I was, and they were all happy, and the topic was, how was your week? And I didn't have a very good week, and someone shared, and someone else shared, and then it was my turn. And I said to these people who were really old, and with whom I had nothing in common, I said, my name is Tom, and I'm an alcoholic. And they said, hi, Tom, which is, if you're a sensitive person, that's very aggressive. And I said, this was a Friday night meeting. I said, I haven't had a drink since Tuesday night. Now, I didn't go into the details. It was beer in a pizza parlor in Santa Clara. I did not get drunk. I did not go to jail. I didn't pee inappropriately. It was just beer in a pizza parlor. And went home and passed out, and then saw my boss the next day, and watched Mr. Ford get the nomination, and then it was Friday night. And so I told these people I hadn't had a drink since Tuesday night. And when I told these people with whom I had nothing in common that I hadn't had a drink since Tuesday night, they burst into applause. I was genuinely caught by surprise. Because who does that? You know? I had some friends who loved me, and they would have that concerned conversation. And I would say, I haven't had a drink in a week. They never clapped. But these people clapped because they knew what it meant to not have a drink since Tuesday night. That gave me a little breath of hope that maybe I wasn't as isolated as I thought I had been. I didn't know there were other meetings. I didn't know there were other groups, but these folks got it. And I've heard other folks talk about that, getting together that first 11 days, that first 19 days, that first month. The miracle of that. Anyone can get 30 years. Jerks get 20 years. Some real creeps get 10 years. But how do you get that first 11 days? I mean, I'm so glad that was the response that was given to me. And then the fellow next to me talked, and I didn't notice him in the room because I was thinking about myself, I guess. But great big guy, younger than me, Vietnam Special Forces, spent a few years in jail. He came back from Vietnam with a lot of skills which you're not supposed to use on this side of the Pacific. And he had a couple of social drinks and blacked out, and inappropriate things happened, and he comes to with a SWAT team on him, dragging him off in chains. And he had a lot of people-pleasing skills, as you could tell. And he went into jail, and he made so many people happy, they put him in solitary, and he stayed there for months. And one of the guards was sober. And the guard started shoving AA literature under the door. And Gary read the stuff after setting fire to it for maybe a month. And then Gary gets sober in prison and becomes one of the sober guys. And his first parole hearing was very brief. He came and they said, "Don't sit down. Do you have any questions for us?" He said no, and it was 5 years later that he talked to them again. Gary had been out of prison about 10 days when he met me, and he told me what we do here. He said, "We here in Alcoholics Anonymous go to lots of meetings. We don't drink in between meetings. And we don't use no dope." Well, I had been smoking non-habit forming marijuana every day for 8 to 10 years. he told me we don't do that here. And Mr. Ford and I smoked on Wednesday night. He was getting the nomination. I was having a little cigarette. And Thursday night I did. Friday night I was planning on, but I heard you don't do that here. And I was so ready. And I was so dumb. I mean, I didn't know you could leave AA if you didn't like it. I mean, I didn't know you could do that. I just figured you show up and do what they tell you to do. And I started this association with sober people. And it saved my life. It has saved my life over and over and over and over again. And I'm so glad for that. And I have a memory that I haven't talked about in a while. I just want to share that. Before I came to the program and got sober, there were a couple of times I did not drink. Now, maybe a few of you have done that. You know, you got in a situation that was so disgusting and awful and that you just aren't going to drink. And mine had to do with the Berkeley police, and we don't have to get into it, but it was humiliating enough for me. And one of my pals was kind of involved as a witness, and so I just stopped drinking. And I'm obsessed with alcohol. My brain works like an alcoholic's brain. I think about it. I notice it. I notice billboards. I notice ads. I was on a plane. I'm on planes a lot, but I notice what people next to me drink and what they don't drink and how fast they drink it. And I sometimes want to give a little advice, you know, but I don't. I was at the Chicago, O'Hare is a very exciting place to walk through, and it was the holidays a few years ago, and people were crazy, and a lot of people don't like to fly, and I usually travel by myself, and it's more than enough just for me to deal with me, but there was a family traveling. There was a mom and a dad and a couple of kids, and one of these kids was a little boy. I'm not good on kids' ages, but maybe 6 years old, 7 years, and this kid was done. You know, they probably flew from someplace and then flew from someplace and are going to fly somewhere else. And this little kid was done. And there are people everywhere, and there's chaos everywhere, anxiety everywhere. It's an airport. And this little boy is just crying his heart out. And I wanted to go up to his mom and say, he needs a drink. I recognize this kid. This little boy needs alcohol more than anyone else in this airport. And I've been him. Let him have a little tequila. It'll take the edge off. But I have learned to keep my big fat mouth shut, and I didn't do that. Anyway, there I am. So I'm not drinking. My friend knows I'm not drinking. And when I'm not drinking, that I didn't drink, and that's all I thought about. I'm not drinking. I'd wake up not drinking. I'd have lunch not drinking. I'd go to class not drinking. I'd take a nap not drinking. Have dinner, you know, in 6 minutes, not drinking. Watch Walter Cronkite, not drinking. And then that's the way it is. And I had 5 more hours of not drinking. So I'm pretty tense. And I was at the Graduate Theological Union, and I was at the Jesuit School of Theology and the Church Divinity School of the Pacific, which is the Episcopalian seminary, invited us over for social. So we went, and all these seminarians, and they're Episcopalians, so they serve sherry in little glasses with fruit, you know. Now, I haven't done that since I was 11. You know, these aren't really adult drinks. And by the way, I'm not drinking, so I'm not drinking. So but my